Hello. Okay, I think this thing is on. Let me do a bunch of checks here. Hello, hello, hello. Getting a few things set up here. We'll drop this onto Twitter. Okay. How is everyone doing here today? I am brand new to kind of getting all this streaming kind of stuff up and running again. So please bear with me. I definitely have been wanting to find a way that I could connect with all of you a little bit better. And so as we get into things, I will probably be streaming a bit more, and it may take me a little bit of time to get everything adjusted here. So let me do this. Eventually I'll pop up a chat or something that shows people's comments that's coming in. But anyways, thank you so very much for coming in here today. I'm going to move a screen over where I can look at you properly. And I just wanted to chat with everyone. So right off the bat, let me see who's in the chat here. Thanks all of y'all for coming on in. So the first thing that I see here is Taltech Chip. How am I feeling? I am feeling very, very good. Tell Chip. Yeah, I have. I've been doing pretty good. I've been trying to exercise a little bit more. Everything like that seems like it's been going pretty well. Unfortunately, I had a pretty big fall, and I totally scraped up my leg and everything like that. But yeah, overall, I've been feeling pretty well here lately. So yeah, thanks for asking. Hey, Sally, how is it going? And we got uh, Julian, hi to Calico Shells. There's a bunch of you that I may not be able to pronounce your names right. Hello, hello, hello. 7.61. I see that. That sounds good. Is an ESP device superior in any way to the BD-JB disk on the Jailbreak? Okay. So thank you there, Sky, for asking a question. And I'm going to be answering as much of all of this that I can today. So here's what I will say is that do I believe that there is a stability issue between, or which way is better, basically using an ESP device or a BD-JB? What I would say on that is that obviously I have both. I've actually got a little ESP chip just right here because I have been using an ESP8266 device for my main PlayStation 5 jailbreak, as well as my PlayStation 4 jailbreak. And it is very stable and it works, but I've also got a Blu-ray burner. It's actually under my desk right here. And with the Blu-ray burner, obviously I've burned CDs and things of that nature. Here lately, I will say that with the Blu-ray, the BD-JB disc, those are all now completely offline, which is really great. Before they needed some sort of internet connectivity, but I have recently published a YouTube video that kind of showed that you no longer really need to have those connected. Do I think that there's a difference in the speed of those two? I will say personally, I think the ESP device would be just a little bit better, mainly because you don't have to put in the disc and you don't have to wait for it to spin up and wait for it to be shown. So it's just a little bit easier in my mind. So with that, if you were to ask me which one would I use, I would probably pick the ESP8266 device. The other thing with that is that, with having this little chip thing right here, you would not need to ever burn it again. Every time that you need to update it, you do just like I'm doing right here, and I've got mine actually plugged into a computer over here, or plugged into this computer, just so that I can flash it and update it. So thank you for asking that question in there. So I'm going to answer as many questions as I can here today. Let's see what else that we've got here. So we see Tell F1 says, "Hey, Aleph, I've been following you for over a year. Maybe you can make a guide on mods for PlayStation." Interesting. Well, I believe that is, I'm not sure what type of mods you're talking about, so maybe drop those in there. If you're talking about the Grand Theft Auto mods, I love Grand Theft Auto 5. I have beaten Grand Theft Auto 5 a number of times. I'm just not the one that's interested in modding that game. I don't know what it has been, but I've never really cared. I've seen some of the cool stuff people have done with modding it. You can fly the cars, all the unlimited ammo and spawning vehicles and all this other stuff. I think it would be fun, but I definitely am not that interested in doing that myself. And so let's see what else we've got. A couple of down faces for PS4 11.02. Yeah, Mark, you're going to be waiting for some time there when it comes to 11.02. Not a chance of that for some time. Let's see what Jake says over here. So Jake says, "Sup, Michael?" Hey, Jake. TRML. Hello. Hopefully you are doing well here today. And we've got one with Mark on a PS5 10.40. And let's see what else we've got. So Sky says 3.20 firmware, PS5 9.0. I hear a hypervisor bypass is coming for 3.x firmware. So that is, obviously we have heard about there being a hypervisor exploit that's available by Flats. That is something that obviously I believe them. I believe that's something that would probably happen, but I don't really know if we're going to see that anytime soon. And while I have a 3.20 system, my 3.20 system is the one that probably is used the least out of all of them. I did a video on my channel, which was every PS5 firmware. And so in that video, I went through all of my firmwares, and I think I said that again right there was that my 3.20 system gets absolutely no love. Mainly everything is with my 4.03 system. I do not have one that's on a later version than that, so I can't play some of the very latest and greatest games. But I do think that is a pretty cool. And yeah, I'll just say this regarding all of this kind of talk about the hypervisor. So we had the hypervisor talk that was out, and we have the hypervisor for 1.x and 2.x. I'll just tell you, for the most part, most of those people that have the 1.x and the 2.x, there's not a whole lot that you can even do with that hypervisor exploit. Now, what I mean by that is that I think for the most part, people want to, people want to play backup games. And I know that Homebrew is always like the main kind of part of it, but with those 1.x and 2.x systems, you're not really getting anything right now that you can't get even better with some of these later firmwares. And obviously I would say, a 6.71 system, today can play all of the backups. It can do pretty much anything that you would want out of it. And so, yeah, I don't have one of those yet, but I absolutely would love to. Okay, so let's see here. Hey, Mike. Offline activation works in 6.x. I did the activation stuff before with my 4.03. I did the offline activation in that. So yeah, I'm sure it does work in 6.x. And then Timo Dante says, is there any news on the PS5 fake package? I think we're a very long time off from getting fake packages on the PlayStation 5. You know, you may have noticed that there was a tweet by Zeko Shell that basically, you know, he had mentioned, you know, hey, there's this other thing that's kind of been defeated, and hey, we may get PS5 fake packages. I can just tell you that at least from my side of things and with my limited knowledge, I don't think we're going to be getting the PS5 fake packages anytime soon. But I do know that there is a number of folks that is working on ways to improve that current method that we've got, you know, here today, which is basically we just dump the game files out, you know, decrypted. Okay, let's go over to another question here from Sky. By the way, I'm overwhelmed with all of you showing up on this stream. I thought I would have maybe 1 or 2 people, but I've got 37 people. So yeah, that's pretty amazing for a stream that just started. So hopefully I can get a little bit better at this whole streaming thing, maybe pop up some questions and things like that. And then demos. Would really like to start doing some demos on the channel here. Okay, so let me go over to Sky, and it says, should I wait out on 3.20 or update to 5.50 or below for M.2 and more game capability? Okay, Sky, this is a really good question. And again, the question, should I wait out on 3.20 or just go ahead and update this thing to 5.50? Well, it depends on a couple of different things. And by the way, a lot of, you know, people will say things like one size fits all answers. I don't really believe that for the most part. Mainly because each individual person may have specific things that they're looking to accomplish. And so I would think that a lot of you has a goal of trying to run game backups on your system. And so here's what I would say. If you are setting around on 3.20, which I am too, but again, I have a little bit of a different purpose for it, which I'll describe. You can't use your M.2, which is absolutely sad because that M.2 drive is where we can put in, you know, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte and get a lot of games out of it. So on that 3.20, you've got you don't have your M.2 support. If you update to 5.50 or something of that nature, you will have things like ETAN, which will allow you to run those game backups, and you will have more game backups than that. The golden rule has always been to tell people to stay on the very lowest firmware that is capable. And I will agree for the most part that that is a really good idea. But I will say that if you have a 3.20 system and you really only care about backups, more than likely you could probably sell that 3.20 system and get a pretty good chunk of change out of it. And then I would go to things like pawn shops and I would say, hey, I want to test this PS5 to see if it works. And I will guarantee you, if you went and you searched long enough, more than likely you could find a PS5 on, you know, like, you know, the 6s, for example. So again, the answer to that is very specific depending on your situation. My 3.20 is sitting here in a closet mainly because if there were to ever get that hypervisor, then I would want everybody to, I would want to be able to show it on the channel here. My 4.03, it's the same way. I'm kind of looking for a 6.71 system, but not really. But I would like to have one where I can play some of those latest games. Okay. So I'm going to keep going through the questions here. Thank you all for asking so many different things here. And so I'm just going to keep going down through and try to answer the next question. So Visions of Death states, I actually have a 1.0 PS5 sitting in a closet. Do you think anything will actually come out of the hypervisor wise to make it worth not to upgrade? Been kind of disappointed. So Vision of Death there. Here is what I would say to you. In case I just saw we got another group of people that just came on in. So for those that just came on in, we have a question here. It's basically, I have a 1.0 PS5 sitting in a closet. What do you think? So here's what I would say. For the PS5 that is sitting in the closet, I would leave that one in the closet and I would never ever think of updating it. That 1.0 PS5 is going to net you thousands of dollars within time, easily. Right now, I'm seeing 1.0 systems being sold for right around the range of $1,500. So for you, Visions of Death, don't ever update that PS5. That PS5 is golden. It's a huge chunk of money if you ever wanted it. What I would do if I were you is I would just go back out and try to find another PlayStation 5. So yeah, and I hear what you're saying, been kind of disappointed with the hypervisor. And I'll be the first one to say this 1.x and 2.x hypervisor blew up the scene, but we didn't really see a whole lot of anything come out of it. There also isn't even enough people to test it. And a lot of people wonder, why do we have golden firmwares like 4.03 or 5.05 for the PlayStation 4? The reason we have golden firmwares is because there's enough testers that have those firmwares that it becomes the golden firmware. It isn't necessarily that firmware was so super special, even though obviously you had advantages for like the PlayStation 4, where it automatically, you didn't have to use those stupid USB dongles, with 5.05. You didn't have to use the ESP, devices or anything like that. It was just a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to jump down to another question here by Mattio, and it says, why after all these years of PS4 jailbreaking, there isn't a custom firmware released? Okay, that's a pretty good question, Mattio. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, the reason that we have custom firmware for things like the PlayStation 3, obviously, as kind of mentioned there has been a number of different root keys that have came about. And even I had a PlayStation Portal on my desk here, but I think I moved it. But even with like the PlayStation Portable, right now with that device, you don't do anything but simply copy a couple of files to a USB drive and run it, because those root keys have also been identified. So for the PlayStation 4 and for a custom firmware, I don't really see that, because we have obviously gotten better and better and better at technology. And, even right now with the Xbox 360, with this thing called Bad Update, which everybody's kind of been talking about, that is semi-permanent, meaning, you have to run that every single time you jailbreak the console. Now, obviously, that is a bit different if you are able to do some of the other things like glitch the CPU, but some of that we can't do with the PlayStation 4 right now. So, yeah, I hope I answered your question there, but yeah, I don't see a custom firmware being released for the PlayStation 4. I just don't see it right now. Maybe as the years catch up. Let's see what else we've got here. So Mark R says, will we ever see a full WebKit exploit on a higher PS5 firmware version? Nobody ever knows these things. Obviously, I just want to mention that there to you, just so you know. Will we see a full WebKit exploit? No, is the answer to that, especially in regards to anytime soon. These things take a while to determine and to figure out, and I don't think we're there yet with the PlayStation 5. So yeah, excuse me, but yeah, what we've got now, 7.61 and under is definitely the going rate there, and I would not expect us to get anything past that. And even right now, I did a video, and I know I should be a little bit better with distributing some of these links, but I did a video on the channel which had a FAQ, and it was a jailbreak advice for every firmware. I'm going to go share here, and I'm going to go copy, and let's see, I might can drop this one in the thing here, and let me go paste. And so yeah, there's the link to that video that we had there. Okay, let me keep going down through the list. And again, thanks all of y'all for showing up. 50 people. It blows my mind that many people's hanging out here today. So yeah, thank y'all so very much. Okay, so the next question that I see here is, let's see. Okay, so Calico Shell says, can I get my PS Portal to work? I have my PS5 activated on PSN, but not on my main console on PSN. My PS4 is my main. Can I switch it to my PS5 to get it working? So getting your PlayStation Portal to work with the PS5 that's activated isn't something that I have personally done. Now, I do own a PlayStation Portal. It's another device that kind of sits around in the closet, mainly because I know that the Flow has a PlayStation Portable games running on that right now. And so you never really know with the Flow, what he'll eventually do. I would have expected that to have already been released at this point, where at least all of us could have ran our PlayStation Portable games on that. But for some reason, he's holding on to it, and he's been holding on to that. I believe if you go back, he's probably been holding on to that since about November of last year. So a very, very, very long time. Sorry, but I've never tried to get the Portal to work with a jailbroken PlayStation 5. I would assume it would work, but yeah, it might take a little bit of time. Let's see here. Dylan says, I'm really curious how Linux will work. Perform or on my 2.x box already. So obviously there was something that came out recently with Linux. I think it may be in my Twitter feed, but I'm not too great at multitasking right now. But yeah, I think we had some more information on that. So let's see here. Let's keep on scrolling down. Thanks all for commenting. So we will go to, hey, what's up, Timothy? Let's go to 11. Okay, so PS4 11.0. I'm unable to fix the time on a jailbroken device. So this is by Mohammed. And for you, Mohammed, I have a video. And by the way, this is not a stream to get people to watch my videos. It's just, I'm just trying to help you out. I do have a video that is on the date, fixing the date and time. On a jailbroken firmware. So if you go back to this video right here, then that one will give you a little bit of information on how I fixed the time on my PlayStation 4. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Hey, what's up, Echo Stretch? See, Echo Stretch is in here. So you probably might have been here for a while, but welcome on in, Echo Stretch. 3.x sucks. My 3.0 is in the box. That is exactly what I was saying too. Yeah, so for 3.x systems, there isn't a whole lot of use to it. Again, the only reason I personally keep it is in case there is a hypervisor that does come out. I thought it would make a good video for that. I also like having at least one of my consoles on a super low firmware. And so that one's setting around at 3.20 is pretty nice to have. but as far as functionality and using it goes, it doesn't really do very much. Let's see here. So I'm going to go to the next question down on the list here. And by the way, keep dropping in your questions. I'm going to try to answer as many of these that I can. And if y'all like this format, then I'll obviously start coming back around and doing more of these. So the next one is from Big Boss 100. Hey, Michael, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to know if I should stay on PS5 10.20 or try to sell it. Okay, Big Boss, I have a video for you. It's my last video on the channel. And if you're on PS5 10.20, I would say sell it. I really, really would sell it. Anything that's in the 10s or the 11s, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but at one point I thought that there might be something for 10.40 and under. PlayStation 5s, that one didn't work out. That one dried up. I don't know how much. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I will say that if it were me and I had a 10.20 system and I was ready to enter the jailbreak scene, I would totally get rid of it. And again, my strategy would be going into local pawn shops and, bringing maybe a PS5 disc with you and just going in there and saying, hey, I'm looking for a PlayStation 5. I've got a disc. I want to test it out. Every single pawn shop will let you go and test out a disc. At least I know in the United States they will. And so I would test it from there, and then I would see if it worked, but I would go straight to the system settings. And if that thing was on, I guess 7.61 and under, but 6.71 or something like that, then yeah, I'd be grabbing that thing immediately. I wouldn't even really care if the disk drive worked, mainly because we can do a lot of that through through web and other things like that. So let's see what else that we have in here. So Julian says, is there some serious hope to get WebKit for 7.61 for those who have? There's the good question. Is there serious hope to get WebKit going for 7.61? Maybe I don't know enough about to tell you if I could answer that question or not. Obviously, with BD-JB and things like Lua, those are super, with Lua, those are super great, for us to have because we potentially wouldn't have to have a disk. All the WebKit stuff, we don't have to have a disk drive working. I always tell people, though, when they are looking for a PlayStation 5 that is jailbroken, always get one with a disk drive. It gives you the absolute most flexibility in case anything happens. So would highly recommend that you do that. So let's see what else we've got here. So we have a question about how about PS5 K-stuff 7.40. I believe that I believe all of the 7.x stuff is something that they are working on at the moment. I think with the 7.x stuff, obviously the biggie on that one is ETA hen. I find that if once K-stuff and everything's working and we get ETA hen support and then we get items flow support, then we are in super great shape at that point. Okay, any hope for 11.02? For that question, I would say doubtful. The main reason I say doubtful for PS4 11.02 is that you may kind of notice, but a lot of folks are kind of moving and migrating to PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is definitely one of those bigger targets that a lot of people are looking forward to. So like right now, for example, we've got, a great release on PlayStation 5. So if you have PlayStation 5 that's jailbroken, and let's just say you're on 6.x, the beauty of that is that you can run a number of different game backups. It's actually pretty good. games that I have sitting over there on my retail PlayStation 5. So as you all know, I do have one PlayStation 5 completely up to date because I'm a gamer at heart. This is what I kind of spend my money on. And so, I have a copy over there, a legit copy of Hogwarts Legacy. Well, the jailbroken version of that is now better than my paid for copy of that. And if you were to ask why, well, with the jailbroken copy, I can not only play Hogwarts Legacy, but there is now all of the DLC that's free with it. And, me as a paying customer, I could go and I could pop in my disc in my PlayStation 5 and I could go and I could look at the DLC for it. And I would probably find that I'm going to be nickel and dime for every single little outfit. Well, now I can have a jailbroken version of that game, which runs, super lightning fast, and I can unlock all the DLC. The same thing for a bunch of other games like Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 11 or things of that nature. So a lot of really good things there. So going back to the question, any hope for 11.02? I would say no. I would say no. I would say get rid of that 11.02 system. Just go ahead and sell it unless you want something that's connected. You can find fairly easily today a PS4 underneath 11.0. That is my experience over and over and over again. And I believe that if I set out this morning to find one on 11.0, the way that I would do it would be I would go to Facebook Marketplace. I would look at a bunch of ads. I might even look at the pictures of the people selling it. If it's like sometimes like older parents or whatever, they don't care. They're just ready to sell it for 50, 60 bucks, get whatever they can out of it. And I would ask them, what firmware version is it on? Can you power it up and tell me what firmware it's on? And most people will do that. And you could even do it as show me some proof that this PS4 is underneath 11.0. So I do not believe that it would be worth your time to wait around on 11.02 at all. Timothy says, can we share accounts for PlayStation 5? No. Obviously, you can't get on the PlayStation Network. And I guess that's a good point here is that the question is, can you get on the PlayStation Network on the jailbroken console? The answer to that is always going to be no. Anybody that says that they can get a PS4, PS5 on PlayStation Network is absolutely lying. That is not a thing that is possible to do. There was recently an April Fool's joke where some folks did that, and I hated the April Fool's joke because it always brings up a bunch of questions. But you will never get on these consoles on PlayStation Network. That's just not going to happen. Sony is actually way smarter than that. So we have Nintendo. So like with Nintendo, we got a bunch of dummies that's running that whole software security division. Like with the Switch 1, for example. With like the Switch 1, we were able to beat it. These RCM jigs and things of that nature. Switch 2 is going to have another small army of people that's working on that one. Sony knows their stuff. Sony has very, very tight security, and Sony just knows how to do it. So you can't get on PlayStation Network if you have a jailbroken console. Now, Tell Fun says, are we reaching a point where there will be no more jailbreaks? I do not think so at all. I think that is no way ever. Mainly because there is a lot of these hackers, or I guess I'll call them exploit authors, that their life consists of trying to figure out how to break these consoles. And, even with like things like the Xbox 360, I mean, if you look at the RGH3, that glitch in the CPU is absolutely amazing stuff. And the knowledge that's behind that is crazy, phenomenal that people are able to do that sort of thing. So there will never be a point where there will be no more jailbreaks. There is always going to be somebody that's poking around in the firmware and, through the browsers themselves. That is where there's been so many problems. And, you look at the PlayStation 5 where they don't have a native web browser. Well, that was obviously by complete design. The web browser was how we owned Sony on the PlayStation 4. And so for the PlayStation 5, obviously you can get to it through like the user guide and things of that nature, and you can try to maneuver your way through it, but it is not very easy at all. Okay, so the next question here is Unbelted Panic 65. Any knowledge of when the flow will disclose? And I believe that's referring to the PlayStation Portal with running PSP games. I don't know. I don't really know anything about the flow. I've talked to the flow before. We've talked, we talked about the PlayStation Portal before. I've helped with a few little things on that he asked me to do, but I don't know. I mean, the flow's kind of in his own little world, and heck, I'm kind of in my own little world too. He has a full-time job. I have full-time job too. For me, this is just a hobby. It's nothing more than that. Let's see what else that we've got here. Let's see. Offline Console says, "You rock, dude. Thanks for watching. Is there a jailbreak for PS4 12.02? Not a chance." Adrian says, "Hi MC, I'm on 4.50. I'm thinking of updating it to 5.x to get VRR, variable refresh rate, in case you didn't know. Should I go for it?" So I'm going to tell you something right now. If you are on 4.50, obviously the gold is kind of 4.51 and under. But I would say for you're on 4.50 and you want VRR. Not only will you get the VRR, but you would also get more game compatibility. I probably would go for it. If you're just looking at, you want to get variable refresh rate and you want more games, you're already on 4.50, I would say go for it. Obviously there could be something that comes out for those that's underneath that, but the very latest UMTX2 that just now came out by Idle Sauce is golden. It is so lightning fast. It is so extremely fast that you shouldn't have any problem with that whatsoever. And I could just go right here, and so we'll go to this one. And so this is the very latest one that came out by Idle Sauce, and this just came out yesterday. And so if you go back in here and you look over here at the comments, you'll see this thing is absolutely a bunch of different performance improvements. And I believe over here on my channel here, I had mentioned this. I mentioned this today, and I put something like, "Agreed, it's now a really great time to own a jailbroken PS5," because they were showing just right here just how fast that this was. And this is legitimately it. I thought about, opening my PS5 today and just trying it and just seeing how fast that it runs. But thankfully, since all of y'all have a bunch of questions, I don't really need to do that. So I'll just jump back over into the questions again, and we will kind of go from there. So let's see here. Okay, so hi, I have a 2.30 system, and I migrated from the PS4 Pro to this one since I can play PS4 games. And now I see one ad that is selling a 6.02. I hate that it does not have the WebKit exploit. Yeah, so if you have 2.30 PS5 keep it in the closet. Don't do anything with it. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that you should do anything whatsoever with that, because it is golden. And I was just bringing up my little chart here that I had just to show you all. And so it kind of looked like this one right here. You know, if you are on PS5, you know, for 1.x and 2.x, I definitely put it right in here to keep this thing as it is, because it is very, very, very high value. So yeah, at least that's my opinion on that. So we'll switch back over here and we'll just keep going through some of these questions. Thanks all y'all for keeping them in there and for being so engaged with me today. I greatly appreciate it. So let's see what else that we have down in the old chat room here. So we will go to, let's see, we'll go to Julian Lil. If I decide to buy a PS5 Pro, what maximum firmware should it be running if I want a reasonable hope of getting a jailbreak in the future? Okay, Julian, 7.61 is what you definitely would not want to go past that number. So 7.61. ETA Hen doesn't support the 7.x's right now, but it does support 5 and the 6x's, as well as obviously all of those below. But that is what I would get. I wouldn't get anything beyond that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. And by the way, keep putting your questions down in here, because I'm going to try to answer every single person. The next question I see is, what are the options to play games that are dumped that are for 6.x and up, currently on 5.10? Okay, so if you are on 5.10, then you absolutely will not be able to play any of the 6.x games. And in the past, what we had was, we had, let's just go to a PlayStation 4 9.00 in the game Dying Light 2. So Dying Light 2 was a 9.00 firmware, I believe, or 9.03 firmware when it came out. And I think it was 9.03. And so we could not play those. Well, we had some very smart people by the name of Cybeck who was able to do things like a bit of trickery, so to speak, to patch all of the calls in the SDK and include the libraries where those older firmwares, such as the 5.x, 6.x, and 9.00 could run those. Backporting PlayStation 5 games isn't the same as how they were backporting the PlayStation 4 games. It's completely different. And it's different in the regards of we absolutely don't have fake package support on the PlayStation 5, and we probably won't have that anytime soon. So yeah, what I would recommend on that one right there is that if you really want to play the 6.x games, you can always go up to 6.71 since you've got a disc too. You can always go to 6.71 and stay there until everything else catches up. Let's see. We got Ball Dog says, "Great to see you again." Well, thank you. I've been wanting to come back on the stream for a while. So Robert says, "I need details on how to fully set up and populate fake package FPKGI." So I can tell you something on that one. So what I'll do is we'll switch over to this screen and we'll go here and I'll go to videos and we'll scroll down just a little bit here. And what I will do is I will look for, there's FPKGI for the PlayStation 4. And then I have it for the PS5 as well. So yeah, it's in here. It's in here somewhere. K-stuff for 5.50. yeah, anyways, I can look for it, but just check out the channel here. And actually, we can do FPKGI and PS4. Huh, I thought I did one for the other version. So anyways, yeah, you can check that out. Oh, I believe the PS5 version. No, I have not done a video yet for the PS5 version, just for the PS4, but it's very similar to that. So if you want to do that, then check that out. And also, Modded Warfare has good guides on a lot of these things as well. And I learned a ton from Modded Warfare. And so he obviously has some videos on FPKGI too. So check him out. I would also say check out Echo Stretch, his channel. Brutal Sam is another really good one that talks about that stuff too. Okay, so let's see here. So MLK says, do you think PS5 game fake packages will have a thing soon? I don't see it. Sorry. So Sky has a good question, and that is, have we seen any PSVR2 dumps? That is a very good question because I actually bought a PlayStation VR2. I found a copy of it, or not a copy of it. What am I talking about? I found a person that was selling it in my local Facebook marketplace for 200 bucks, 200 bones. And so I agreed to it and I bought it. And I'm actually enjoying the PSVR2. I'm currently playing Resident Evil 4 Remake on it. And so I love the PSVR2. I know that sounds weird, but it really has a couple of great games for it. And now there is an adapter that you can get so you can plug that into your PC and you can play all the Steam VR games. So to answer your question there, Sky, no, I have not seen any PSVR2 dumps, but I think it would be very interesting to see how well the PSVR2 works with one of these lower firmwares. Personally, I have not. I have not played with the PSVR2 on my jailbroken PlayStation. I've only done that with my main PlayStation. Okay, so Timo Dante says he said he's referring to the flow. He's not going to release the hack for the Portal, and that's totally fine. It's it's his hack. He can do whatever he wants to with it. And then Sky says 5.50 enables PSVR2. So I didn't know that, Sky. That is great information. So you would at least need to be on 5.50 to get PSVR2. Okay, so maybe I need to start saving some money to buy a PS5 that's on this 6.x firmware in order for us to see what happens with it. I would totally do that. So Balldog says, I'm planning to buy a PS5 to jailbreak. So my question is any disk drive or does it have to be a specific firmware? So all of the PlayStation 5s, you can get a disk drive for them. Obviously the fat one, which was the first one that came out, works perfectly fine. It already has a disk drive. The Slims, you can add on a disk drive. And then, well, I said everything, but it's not really every system. Obviously, there's the digital PlayStation 5s, but for the most part, you can get a disk drive with all versions of it. A specific firmware, yeah, definitely you are going to want to get a lower firmware. I would say, I typically try to shoot for 7.61 or lower, or the 6.x firmwares. Mainly the 6 and the 5 gives you ETA-N, which is something we definitely want. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to keep going down through the list here. And okay, there's a lot of questions in here. I appreciate all of the questions, everybody. I'm going to keep going down through these things and we'll go on. So the next question is iOS. I hear this dog barking outside. And I'll just put them in here. All right. All right. So the next question is, do you think we would ever be able to go online on the PlayStation 4 from iOS Helper? And the answer to that is no, we would not. Um, Now, Scott does make a good mention there. You can play Fortnite. There is some kind of workarounds for this sort of thing. Let me tell you, all of these workarounds for trying to play some of these games online, you know, they did that with Call of Duty 6, and then that got shut down. Most of these kind of janky ways of getting, you know, playing online on a jailbroken console, it is a poor experience, in my opinion. The only real way to do better than that is truly to have a PlayStation 4 or 5 that's up to date. So you don't have to have online to play Fortnite on a PS5. So I have my PS5 that's whatever setting on 11.0. My PS5, I don't have a paid subscription to that. I have some other reasons why I don't like to pay for their online service, but I can play Fortnite just fine. Obviously, these are free to play games, and if you're wanting a good experience of Fortnite, don't even try doing that on a jailbroken PlayStation 4. It's not a experience. You want to be able to run that bad boy on the latest and greatest version of Fortnite, since that thing's always changing. And then, you know, you can find PS4s, you know, fairly cheap nowadays, I believe. And if you get one on 11.02, just update it to the latest one and then just play it on that is what I would do. Let's see what else that we've got here. So I followed this video method, but it does not work. So Mohammed, let me know which video that you were trying, but because 11.0 works perfectly fine. I've got actually, if you go to my main channel, it has a video on there. iOS Helper says, yes, I know, but I like the Xbox 360 online. So if you didn't know, with the Xbox 360, you can use stealth servers. And with those stealth servers, you can play online. Now, I personally am another one of these people that I know you can do that with stealth servers, but I've just never really cared enough about doing it. I'm just a single player type of guy for the most part. I do love local co-op. If a friend is around or something, you know, or people coming over, just sitting on the couch, I think that is a totally fun thing to do. Okay, let's see what else that we've got here. So we are going to go over to we are going to go to the next question here. It says, okay, so that was from the pig on 2.30. Firmware, should I wait? And they said, thank you. So yeah, I definitely think you should wait. So Sky says, unless it gets taken offline. Okay, so this is a good one. So here's the question. Do you get banned from using these hacks or these jailbroken hacks? Do you get banned? The answer is no. I have shown my full details of my PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4s. Really, I really will speak more to PlayStation 4s since I've been showing those for so many years now. Some of those systems I have went ahead, like later on, for whatever reason. I've tried them. I've went online. I've done different things with them. They've never gotten in trouble. Obviously, you can revert firmwares if you've got somebody that's a bit more technical. Other people have made PS4s, went to the latest update, logged in, logged back out. The next question is about trophies. Sony does not care about cheating in trophies. You can cheat all day long if you want to with trophies. Sony doesn't care. I can go to my main PlayStation account right now, and I can show you that I was playing with Okage Shadow King back when there was all this coolness back in the PlayStation 4 days of using Okage Shadow King to run a malicious save game exploit. And I can just tell you, it popped It was on accident, but I believe the version that I had popped all of the trophies at one single second. And so I would get all these trophy notifications. I've taken that same account online. It's on my main PlayStation 5 right now. It shows that I earned 12 trophies for the whole game in less than a minute. And Sony said, who cares? They don't care if you cheat with trophies. And I do have videos on my channel that shows you how you can just unlock all the trophies. So I would always just be careful of people that claims that they've got so many trophies. I could literally set up an account today and I could run it through my PS4 jailbroken and then take it back to a retail PS5, for example, and it could show 1,000 trophies, and if they were all on the same minute, nobody would care, or Sony would not care. So yeah. Let's see here. The first thing we see here is from George P. And it says, is it possible to restore your PS5 backup to a PS4 for 11.02 or higher? So you're restoring PS5 to PS4. So it really wouldn't work that way. You would have to have a PS4 backup and restore it to the PS5. I haven't tried this before, but the PS4 I don't think would even recognize the software if you went straight for a PS5 backup. Save games is really messed up too. So yeah. He says here, by restoring a backup to a PS5 that was taken with the latest firmware version, will also update the PS4. So no, Sony does not automatically update it. Now, it can totally ask you if you want to update it, but it will not force you. I have been using and playing with these Sony systems for a very long time, and I have never found that Sony has ever forced an update. They've always given you a bit of an opportunity to back out. And then the other thing is that kind of knowing how they do the recovery firmware. So, you know, we know things like where does it actually where does it reside? Where does that file reside? So on the PlayStation 4, there's like an update folder, which we basically zero out to make it not be able to update it. On the PlayStation 5, they got a little bit smarter. And so even if you zero out that pup update.dat or .pup, then it won't do anything. So yeah, hopefully that helps just a little bit here. Okay. Thank you, George. Thank you, Sky. We are going to go to, I'm on 6.0 PS5 and missed out on 5.50. Well, you're in the 6.X's, so you're in pretty good shape there. So I don't really think you missed out on anything, in my opinion. Anyone selling some cheap Gen 4 SSDs? Okay, thanks, Big Boss. I'm glad I helped you out there. Sky says, wait it out. Where's Echo Stretch? Echo Stretch was here just a few moments ago. I think he probably bounced back out. Echo Stretch, any updates on K-stuff 7.x? Maybe we should ask him. Echo is really awesome and easy to work with, and yeah. Okay, so let's see what other questions that we've got in here. So, UCF Sheriff, any news about WebKit for 6.x? I really want to jailbreak, but I can't. Costs, God bless Egypt, Blu-ray disc, and a drive to write it on will be really expensive. Yeah, so I don't really have any other news updates than what's currently kind of out right now. I know the Blu-ray disc is a breaker for a lot of people, which is why I tell everybody all the time, make sure that you keep your keep your system, again, as low as possible. But when you look for a system, look for a disk drive 100%. Okay, so a few more comments in here. Sky says, Batman. And I agree with Batman here. So Batman says PS4 on 9.00 is still the GOAT. And I will say that for myself, I literally love my PS4 9.00. So I have a bunch of televisions in my house. I have a main television that I keep my latest and greatest PS5 on. I also have a couple of other consoles hooked up. I've got like a Wii. I've got PlayStation 4 on that TV. I've got a RGH3 Xbox 360. And I have a hacked Wii U. I don't know what I've got that for. And then on another TV, which is kind of like my bedroom TV, I have one console. The one console that I have is my PlayStation 4 9.00. I believe that is hands down my favorite console and my favorite firmware of any of the systems that I own. The Jailbreak is absolutely flawless. It just works. And there is so much software that you can use on the PlayStation 4, and it rivals even some of the stuff over here on the PlayStation 5. So don't ever think that you need like this PS5 thing in order to really get some good gaming. The only real good gaming that you need is a PS4 on like 9.00 or 11.0. So much great titles. Even playing right now, there's an Evil Dead Ash game that's out. It's like a retro game, and it maybe doesn't look very beautiful, but I've been playing that game every night now because I just really enjoy my PlayStation 4. My PlayStation 4 is turned on every day, so I would agree there. We need support for Mira on PS4 9.00. So those of you that don't know, Mira was a bit of an earlier version of the Jailbreak, as we kind of, or maybe name, as we kind of have things like Gold Hen now. We need Gold Hen on PS5. I would not be surprised to hear Sistro working on that. Hint, hint. Hey, Barney Bay. This looks like Barney eBay. Just saw you were live. Thought I'd say hello. Hello to you. Thanks for coming on in. Okay, well, I tell you what, I think I am pretty much, let's see what else we've got here. So let's scroll down. Let's see what else we've got. So I'm going to just zip through some of these comments and go down to the end here. We've got Batman, most likely Chip. How cold does it get in your basement? There's let's see, is that the Control Execute? Here's my favorite American who's not from Texas that has a Texas accent. Yes, that is me. I definitely am the one that's got the southern accent. And let's see, Xbox One still hasn't gotten jailbroken. Any update on the X-Slime being exploited? So for the Xbox One, I kind of bailed out on all of that. I do have some videos. Her name was Emma, which was doing a lot of the hacking on the Xbox One. I found that I didn't necessarily, I just found that I wasn't that interested in doing the Xbox One content. So I kind of bailed out and quit doing it. And the kind of the same thing went with the 360. I made like 2 videos on the 360, which was about Rock Band Blitz and being able to run Bad Update. I think I did another video about how to run it with Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. And I just found that I just don't really care that much about the Xbox. Just a personal thing. I've always been interested in PlayStation. Yeah, I was one of those people that was a teenager that put a mod chip in my PlayStation 1. I remember, practicing soldering for hours to try to attempt a Matrix chip in a PlayStation 2. I think, was that it? Was that the name of the chip? I can't even hardly remember. Funny enough, I still have that PlayStation 2 that I chipped, and it still runs here today. I would be embarrassed and ashamed if anybody looked at it because, yeah, I'm not that good at soldering stuff, even though I've done a lot of soldering for consoles with the GameCube. I think I did a video on the GameCube. What was that thing called? Wasn't there a GameCube? Let me just see here. I was trying to remember. Oh, PicoBoot. Yeah, so I did PicoBoot. Oh wow. I'm looking over here at my I'm looking over here at my thing, and it's like, yeah, that PicoBoot was like 2 full years ago. So yeah, I showed everybody kind of how I did that back then. Here was the wires, here's how I did it. So yeah, that was the last time that I really messed with one of the last times that I messed with some of that stuff. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'm probably about to wrap up here for today. I just kind of wanted to test and see if there was any interest in me being here and if anybody wanted to kind of watch this type of content. So it looks like a lot of you have. Let's see here. We will go down to, okay, we got a response there from Echo Stretch. So Echo Stretch was asked about K-stuff, and he wrote for the 7.x's, and Echo Stretch says no news yet. And then we have Zeko. Zeko says, hey, he is in here. And the last, let's see, Timo says, Michael, what's your opinion about the bounty program holding things back? Okay, so let me say something about that. So with the bounty program, things are changing. The world has changed quite a bit. These exploit authors that spend a lot of time doing this stuff absolutely deserve to be compensated for this. And the Flow is obviously understood this and makes a great amount, well, maybe makes okay money with this. And what I will say is that, with like the Flow, he has done what I think other people should follow in regards to the Flow usually releases stuff. He's done that over and over and over again. I was just on my Vita and I was running one of those programs to jailbreak it because I think I was either had another Vita that I was messing around with and I saw his name. He usually gives the stuff away. I know he didn't do that with the PlayStation Portal. Nobody really knows why, but again, it's his stuff, so he can do whatever he wants to. I think it is totally fine to hold the exploit and to give it to Sony and then get himself paid for it and then him to fight to disclose it. I think the Flow does a great job at disclosing his stuff. He doesn't have to disclose it, and I don't think that he looks at it as just a paycheck, but I know he's got some things he could probably work on when it comes to like community and like what people may think of him inside of the community. But yeah, it doesn't really matter what I think or anybody thinks about him because he's got his own stuff going on. So yeah, I mean, I think it's totally fair game for him to go through the disclosure and then after the disclosure to release it. I wish everybody else would disclose it and would mark it for disclosure, because if you don't, then Sony won't ever disclose it. I just wish that the Flow, if the Flow ever watched this, I would just say I wish that the Flow would spend a little bit more time with talking to myself, talking to Echo Stretch, talking to Control Execute, Lightning Mods, and instead of it being kind of him broken off into his own little thing where we work together. Obviously, the best benefit to this hacking stuff is for all of us working together. Working in silos doesn't really ever help the scene, and that I believe there would be a bigger impact on it. So yeah, my opinion is I think that's great for him if he wants to do that. And I do appreciate him disclosing it. But yeah, the community's here. We're all willing to work with him. So if he wants to work with us, he can come into our private Discord chats. We would love to have him. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. So we have Code Execute, or Zeko, says the PS Portal pup decryptor. Yeah, it's cool. Let's see if there's anything else. No, it's from Flats. Yeah, UMTX2. People want money in exchange for exploits. Yeah. Yeah. And that is very true. People they are going to want money in exchange for exploits. I think that's just what it is going to be. He's great. He's heard about the KASLR issue. Definitely. But I prefer flats over the flow. Yeah, there's different ones. Flats, in my opinion, Flats and some others are very, very forthcoming about sharing their information. And just keep in mind, all of these kind of exploit authors have their own like little friends that they hang out with and that they talk to. I've had a number of really smart little hacker friends that I've chatted with. I was going to say Macaulay, the guy Macaulay who did the Okage save game. I think that was him. Macaulay was super willing to talk to me. I don't think I've had that many people that was as willing to say, hey, if you're going to make a video on this, let me help you make sure that it's perfect. Macaulay was one of those people. Obviously, I've shared videos with a lot of people. The other one that strikes my mind as somebody really solid is Lappy. Lappy, who makes PS4 Explorer. Lappy has worked with me like crazy. He has wanted to make sure the videos were good. He wanted to make sure that I shared the right amount of things. And I'll say for the most part, if more of that happened, everybody wins in the end. Lots of people win with that. Let's see, what else do we have in here? And what about KLD load? So it looks like a couple of conversations in here. Lappy is the heart of the homebrew community. Yep. X Fang Fang. Hey, Dr. Yenin. I know I've talked to you a couple of times. Yep. Bucanero is another one. And I will say Lightning Mods is an absolute goat. You know, truly one of these kind of greatest of all times, mainly because Lightning Mods does so much of this work for free. And most of you probably don't know this, but Lightning Mods works all the time on this stuff, and he really is not compensated at all. Obviously, he's got a few donation goals, but at least from what I've heard, he barely can make enough to even buy some of these dev kit PlayStation 5s. And it's not on, you know, one single person or anything like that. I just want to let you know that, like, we're very lucky, I believe, to have Lightning Mods to be able to continually update and improve it. You know, with most software, you know, if you, let's say you buy a game, well, that game may have bugs and it gets fixed. It takes time to do all of those things. And so I just am kind of glad that he is a big part of the community. And then Echo Stretch, obviously I chat with some of these folks, and I can tell you that they spend a lot of extra hours doing it. I don't know about everybody else, but I have a full-time job that keeps me busy, usually about 50 hours a week right now. I also have to travel for my job, which is why sometimes you may not see me on the channel for a week or so. You know, we all have different things and work and life and responsibilities, but for somebody to do all of that and to keep all that up for free is a pretty amazing thing. Let's see here. UK, I never knew Echo Stretch was a coder until those K-stuff bombs. Yeah. Yeah. I think Echo Stretch has just learned a whole ton of stuff. If you go back, Echo Stretch was doing videos just like I was doing. me and him made very similar videos, and he was doing that for a while, and then he just kind of broke off and got into all the coding stuff. Yeah, so Dr. Yin says the devs in the scene deserve a bit more, and I would agree there too. Okay, no, we definitely do not know how to get the keys, Dave. Still 2 years. Okay, well, I tell you what, I think we've been live for about an hour and 15 minutes. Thank y'all all for coming and hanging out with me today. You definitely showed me that you were a bit interested in this type of content. So I think I may button a few things up, and I might kind of get a little bit better at doing some chat on screen here where you can see the messages. And maybe we can just start experimenting and playing around with a few other things. Well, anyways, I want to say thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.